Hello, my name is Malachi Dyer, and this is my second song that I've changed from style to style, which is Everlong. So, my overview of it would be that the original style was alternative rock, and the original artist was the Foo Fighters, um, which was released on the album The Colour and the Shape in 1997. But I have changed the style to a bit of rhythm and blues, sort of neo soul sort of thing going on. And I'm going to split this up into little segments. So the first is going to be melody. Originally, melodically, it was the verse was a lot softer than the chorus. The verse has a descending melodic line. The chorus is very intense with a higher pitch, and the pre-chorus has an ascending line which builds tension. So how I've changed it, first of all, I've kept the verse as quite soft still, just because that's in a lot of sort of R&B stuff where it's building up to it, but it sort of comes back down after the chorus. It comes back down to a nice soft verse. Um, and then with a female vocalist, obviously the vocals are going to be a bit higher pitch. Um, the pre-chorus has both an ascending, but I would say more of a prominent descending melodic line. Um, the chorus does not go higher, which is different than the original. I've just chosen that because it's typically in R&B. I've seen a lot of the time where it's sort of stayed the same just because it's more relaxed. It's a more relaxed feel. Um, then we've got the bass plays the root and the fifth throughout, but it has an ascending melodic line in the pre-chorus. This is very similar to the original, but obviously it's a lot more relaxed, and it gives a little bit of tension just before the chorus, but not too much as where it feels so intense like the original. Relatedness, I could relate it back to the Joy Crooks No Hands. Um, Between 32 seconds and 44 seconds, where the pre-chorus is both an ascending, sort of an ascending, a descending melodic line that comes in around 32 to 44 seconds. So my next sort of section would be harmony. Um, we know that this is in D sus2, so it won't be fully major or minor in the original. It uses the chords D sus2, B minor 7, E minor, G, and A. Um, so it's not particularly major or minor. Chorus gives a resolution and relief from the verse and the pre-chorus, and it has a diatonic tonality. So um, what I've done to change it is, so I've changed the key to a B minor 7. So now it's in a minor key. I found this a lot within sort of neo soul songs that it will sort of vamp between a major and a minor just to build tension on that minor and then go back to the major, sort of resolve it a little bit. Um, and so we're going to be using chords F sharp minor 7, B sharp, B minor 7, E minor 7, G dominant 9, D7, C7, and an A for the end of the chorus sort of thing. I've also added a brighter pre-chorus. So I've made it major. It's going from a D7 with the transition chord of C sharp minor 7, G sharp major 7 down to a C7. I've just found it's quite bright, it's quite nice, and yeah, it definitely matches the feel of the song. The pre-chorus also goes between two chords, which I found in a lot of neo soul songs where it just goes between two chords. So I've used the reference of "Got to Be Good" by Got Street Park. Between 20 seconds and 30 seconds, you can really get a gist of this going between the two chords. Right, the next section is rhythm. So the original was obviously in the 4/4 time signature. It was very, very, very fast at 158 beats per minute. Um, the guitar was playing in 16ths along with the hi-hat. This really just made it quite intense. Yeah, and that really wasn't what I was going for, obviously, in R&B, where it's a lot more relaxed and it's just, yeah, more of a chill version of it. Um, there was also just a straight chorus, much straighter than the 16th that was all playing there. Um, and then what I've changed, I've made it a lot slower, so 60 to 80 beats per minute, which got Street Park again. Tell me why. has done quite a good job of just showing that in a R&B sort of neo soul song. Um, so I've also added a slower feel on the drums. So I've used a lot of rim shots just to make it a lot more relaxed and easier to just uh, be a lot more chill. And only a few strums on the guitars. Whereas in this, obviously, it was sixteenths on the guitars, and it was very much very rhythmic on the guitar, playing obviously uh, lower notes and higher notes within the strums, and like sort of going in between them, like a drummer would do on the kick and the snare, going through higher pitches and lower pitches, using the kick as the lower, snare as the higher. But they would do that on the guitar. Um, I've only used one strum because obviously it makes it much more relaxed. The keyboard is playing every chord only once on the beat, and it speeds up slightly in the chorus. I found that it just helps to build the tension a little bit without making it too intense like the original, and then it relaxes back down in verse two. The bass is playing the root note and the fifth, as I've mentioned, which makes it not too busy as well. I found that that was quite nice to have. Next up is texture. So on the original, the intro, the guitars and drums, the guitars sort of built up and then the drums came in and started just building up a little bit on that hi-hat. Um, and then in the verse, it goes very, very busy, quite thick, and it continues to get busier in the pre-chorus along to the chorus. So what I've changed is I've added a keyboard, so that makes it slightly thicker, but I've had to make it less sort of grimy in terms of the texture, where it comes to playing a lot of the time. So obviously I've got more instruments, but I've made it a lot less messy by just playing one chord and not playing like sixteenths on the guitar and stuff like that, only playing one strum. Um, yeah, so now moving on to production. The original had lots of distortion, lots of overdrive. It had a very punchy snare and a kick that was also very punchy. They had compression, they had chorus, and they had a big ending with a slight fade out on the guitar, but not too much because it had already ended. So what I changed was that I had lots of reverb on, especially the vocals. I made sure that I had lots of reverbs. I've seen that quite a lot within R&B, where they have a lot of reverb. Um, I also managed to get the compression just so it's not too messy. Again, I didn't want to make it too messy. Um, then I've had, as I said, the rim shots on the snare to take the punchy element of the original, so it's nice and punchy. But I've also added reverb to that as well. Um, I also have made a fade out. I've seen that a lot on a lot of R&B songs, such as Lauryn Hill's X Factor, which also has the chimes, which I've added to the beginning. Yeah. So now the structure. So the original structure was quite an easy, just verse, pre-chorus, chorus sort of structure. So yeah, I've pretty much replicated that as it doesn't really change within R&B. The only thing I haven't done is added that chorus at the end, um, just because it didn't need a big ending. It needed to be much more relaxed, as an R&B song, rhythm and blues. Yeah, so that's what I changed about it. So these are all my references together with the Joy Crooks No Hands, 32 to 44 seconds, Got to Be Good by Got Street Park, Tell Me Why by Got Street Park, and the beginning of X Factor by Lauryn Hill.